This just shows that the developers didn't do enough research when making these, because how do you mess up this bad? This is just a complete mess of weapons and gear that a soldier would never be seen using. I do not know how they could have messed up on something this simple. They somehow messed up so bad when this should be the easiest stuff to research. It literally takes a single Google search and maybe looking at a couple pictures to fix these mistakes. Hello everybody, in today's video I'll be going over all of the historical inaccuracies in the mission S.O.E. in Call of Duty World War II. This is the 4th episode, as this is the 4th mission in the game, so be sure to go check out all the other videos on my channel if you want a historical accuracy review of the previous missions. At the end of this mission I'll be giving it a historical accuracy grade, so be sure to stay tuned until the end. Before we start, I'm not a historian, but I do have a passion for World War II history. I've been studying and collecting relics for a few years now, but if I do miss anything, let me know down in the comments below. I hope you all enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe if you do. I won't keep any longer, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Before this mission even begins, we come across multiple inaccuracies just within the dialogue.
From the resistance about a German train carrying V2 rockets.
V2 rockets were never carried by Panzerzeugs. They'd be carried by trains, but never Panzerzeugs. This is literally just big army train must carry big rocket weapons. We're then shown a picture of the Panzerzeug, and if you've ever seen one, you realize that it is designed incorrectly. Panzerzeugs were never led with the engine like this. They would always be in the middle. This was done as protection against mines, because if the engine was the lead car and it hits a mine, it would disable the entire train. The next inaccuracies are that the V2 rockets were not being used in combat yet, as Hitler wouldn't give the order allowing the use of the rocket until August 29th, 9 days after this mission. And even after that, the first V2 rocket wouldn't be fired until September 8th, which is 19 days after this mission. The next inaccuracy is that a Panzerzeug shouldn't even be in Normandy at this time. All Panzerzeugs were out of Normandy by this time, and if they were still there, they would be abandoned. American forces came across the Panzerzeug for the first time in late August, either the 28th or the 29th, and not even in Normandy. On top of that, the model is said to be the Panzerzeug 61, which was destroyed on the Eastern Front around June or July 1944, a whole month before this mission. The next inaccuracy is just a silly one.
For an attack on Paris.
German forces still occupy Paris at this time in real life, so even if they were to use a V2 rocket at this time, it would be absolutely ridiculous to do so. They would be bombing their own forces in a key city that they're still fighting for. There is literally no reason for them to be getting ready to strike Paris with a V2 rocket at this time, at all. We haven't even left the cutscene yet, but here we come across the next inaccuracies. Starting off, S.O.E. agents typically didn't wear British uniforms, and would be wearing civilian clothing instead to blend in with locals, as that was their job. Crowley is wearing a pattern 37 tunic, which was the standard issue for the British Army during World War II, and even shows buttons on the outside of the breast pockets, which was only featured on privately purchased uniforms, like those for majors and captains. This is a cool little detail because Crowley is a major, so his uniform should have these buttons. He just shouldn't have this uniform on though because he's deployed on the front line, so it doesn't make sense for him to be wearing it. We see more uniform inaccuracies as Daniels, Zussman, and Pearson are all wearing M43s, which were not the standard issue until December 1944, 4 whole months after this mission takes place. The last inaccuracy here is that regular American infantry wouldn't be working with S.O.E. like this. We're a part of the 1st Infantry Division, and there is no record of the 1st Infantry Division working with the S.O.E. at any point in time during the war. It would be American Special Forces units, not just some random squad. Finally, we take control of Daniels and get on with the mission. This gameplay here actually does pretty well in showing what the S.O.E. would do. They were trained to sneak around and complete sabotage operations, rarely getting into gunfights with German soldiers.
Well done.
As we sneak around, it becomes impossible to stay hidden, so we're forced to go loud. S.O.E. agents would typically avoid battles like this, like I said, and would retreat, but because this is a time-sensitive and very important mission, they were less likely to retreat and would actually engage with the enemy here. It was very rare for them to do so, but this is one of the only exceptions where it makes sense for them to engage in a battle like this. Like I said, they did do a pretty decent job on this section here. Unfortunately, they didn't do so good on the uniforms for the Germans though. They somehow messed up so bad when this should be the easiest stuff to research. It literally takes a single Google search and maybe looking at a couple pictures to fix these mistakes. Starting off, the color of these uniforms never existed as a color for the German tunics at any point in time during the war. They had plenty of examples to model them after, but they still decided to make something completely up instead. You also see a lot of them wearing overcoats, which wouldn't typically be seen until late September or early October, whenever the weather would be colder. A lot of them are also seen wearing field caps, which for this case isn't totally inaccurate because we are behind the front line, but in other missions they are overused. The field cap itself though is inaccurate, as it's designed wrong. It's given to normal hair soldiers, when it's clearly shown to have the eagle on the side, which was only present on SS field caps, not hair ones. The helmets are also very inaccurate. You will only see the tricolor decal on the side and no other decals. A helmet like this never existed at all during the war. They were never produced with only the tricolor decal. And on top of that, after 1941, they weren't produced with the tricolor decal anymore. It would be more accurate to have either no decals or just a branch decal like Aero Luftwaffe on the side. The tricolor only though is just completely inaccurate as it literally never existed at all. It makes me think that the developers did zero research on the helmets and decals when making them, because how do you mess up this bad? Some of the German soldiers are also seen wearing shotgun shell bandoliers, which are completely fictional. Nothing like this was ever worn by German soldiers during the war. As we look at the soldier with the shotgun shell bandolier, we'll notice he is using a Luftwaffe drilling shotgun, which was never given to air units at any point in time during the war. These guns were extremely rare, and as the name implies, only given to Luftwaffe units. When we look at this soldier's helmet though, we can see he is not a Luftwaffe soldier, because for some reason his helmet features a hair decal. It also has a tricolor decal, which makes it inaccurate. As I mentioned before, these shouldn't be on the helmets anymore during this time in the war. But it's just weird that the developers made a more correct hair helmet, but still give them the soldiers who are using guns that only the Luftwaffe used. This is just a complete mess of weapons and gear that a soldier would never be seen using. We also see German soldiers using the MP-28, which is incorrectly named the Waffe-28. This gun is also way too common, and was only ever used by Waffen-SS or police forces, not frontline infantry. It was still rarely ever used by the SS and police, and German forces would instead use the MP-38 or MP-40, even by the later stages of the war. The next weapon inaccuracy is the MG-15. These are shown as the primary MG used by the German machine gunners, when it was nowhere near as common as the MG-34 and 42, which were the standard MGs used by the German army. The MG-15 was way more common in Luftwaffe field divisions, so again, just a complete random assortment of guns given to soldiers who would have rarely ever been seen with them during the war. In World War II, the MG-15 was originally used for anti-air purposes, but converted for ground use later in the war. This gun still shows the anti-air sights and not the correct sights that would be on the converted guns. The MG-15 also used a dual drum mag, not a single drum mag like what's shown. Literally almost everything about this gun is just wrong. It was never this common, it doesn't have the right sights, it doesn't even use the standard magazine, and it was given to the wrong soldiers. This just shows that the developers didn't do enough research when making these, because how do you mess up this bad? All it takes is one Google search to fix half these problems. There are plenty more weapon inaccuracies, but they're small, so I'll go over them quickly now. The suppressor for the M3 grease gun was built into the barrel, so it wouldn't be able to be detached and reattached like this. You'd have to take off the entire barrel, not just the suppressor. This weapon was one of the only weapons that could use a suppressor in World War II though, so I'll cut them some slack because at least they didn't just make something up like they usually do. On top of that, this weapon was very rare and only given to airborne, tankers, or special forces units. The S.O.E agents are also seen using the M3 grease gun, which is even more rare for them to be using. They should be using the Sten gun instead. US soldiers are also seen using the British Bren machine guns, which was never issued to American soldiers. The M1 Garand also has a few inaccuracies. The sights are just way too big, which is obviously done so the player can see better while aiming, but still, it's an inaccuracy. Also, every time you reload, you manually push the bolt forward, which isn't totally inaccurate, but every time is. The M1 Garand was designed to have the bolt close automatically when you push the clip in. That's how the M1 thumb or Garand thumb would happen. It would automatically close on your thumb after you push the clip in. The next inaccuracy is the sawed-off double-barrel shotgun. These were never issued to American soldiers and would only be accurate if we assume that a French resistance fighter gave them the Daniels, but we don't really see any French resistance fighters during this mission, only Rousseau at the end. We use the sawed-off double-barrel shotgun to clear out the building of German soldiers, then go for the door. We climb into the couple wagon and chase down the German Panzerzug. It begins to fire at us, and we swerve recklessly while attempting to avoid being blown up. We manage to get in front of the train, and Daniels climbs onto the back of the car to man the machine gun. The inaccuracy here being that the MG is incorrectly labeled the MG34 when it's very clearly the MG42. I do not know how they could have messed up on something this simple, one of the most popular guns in World War II, and they still got the name wrong. I'll talk about the next inaccuracies while we use this MG something rather to gun down the German infantry on the train. Like mentioned before, this is a Panzerzug, but it's not designed like a Panzerzug at all. It only looks somewhat accurate at the front, but the rest is just a complete mess. Panzerzug was designed with the engine in the middle, with an assortment of cars, either guns, transport, or whatever, in the same order on either end of the engine, making a symmetrical design with both sides having equal firepower. All of these cars here, they're all just thrown on randomly with no order. There are also just way too many cars. I counted around 23, could be more but not much less. Panzerzugs only had 14 cars at most, nowhere near this many. And the last thing in this segment here, a Jeep would not be able to flip a Panzerzug like this. This is literally just all Hollywood exaggeration with epic Michael Bay moments. We pass out in the chaos and wake up to Zussman calling for us. We're almost taken out by a German soldier, but get saved by a French resistance fighter. While not totally inaccurate, it was very rare for French resistance fighters to be women. Women made up only around 15 to 20% of the French resistance, and of those women, less than 10% of them fought on the front line. They would typically be given tasks like medics or messengers. So this isn't totally inaccurate, but the chances of this being the case are just very low. We fight through the train wreckage, taking out multiple German soldiers who also survived. Then finally meet back up with the rest of our squad, where the mission ends. Now that we're at the end of the mission, it's time to give it a historical accuracy grade. Overall, they did well with showing how a battle would happen between S.O.E and German forces if we exclude the entire chase of train and survive an epic crash segment, but overall it's not a bad mission. But it is just riddled with inaccuracies. Some of the biggest ones being that the squad that's used for this mission just isn't accurate at all. You wouldn't see just some random squad from the 1st Infantry Division working with the S.O.E, and we barely see any French resistance fighters when those are the main force that the S.O.E work with. Another big one is the Panzerzug itself. The entire mission revolves around this train, but it's just not accurate to what it would look like in real life at all. The first few cars look correct, but the rest after that are just a random assortment of cars that don't go on a Panzerzug at all. At least not in this order. They basically just took a train and slapped some armor on it and then called it a Panzerzug instead of making it an actual Panzerzug. They messed up on a lot of other things like the uniforms the S.O.E are wearing, and the Americans too, including the guns that both the squads use, and other exact details like the V2s and how they were transported. They completely made up how the V2 rockets were transported. They were transported on trains, but not Panzerzugs, and when they would bomb Paris, and a lot of little things like that. There's also no documentation of a scenario like this ever happening, so it's just completely fictional. They attacked rail yards and trains and stuff, but this entire epic Hollywood, Michael Bay stuff, like I mentioned, is just fictional. It's never happened in real life. So I have no real base to go off of like I did with Operation Cobra or D-Day, because like I said, this is just all fictional. But anyway, with all of those added up, I can only really give this mission a historical accuracy grade of 20 out of 100. So far, this is the lowest grade that I've had to give a mission, but I think it is well deserved. Like I mentioned, the S.O.E did do missions like this, but this is just way too Hollywood to be considered historically accurate in any way at all. It's literally just all made up. I don't know how much I can emphasize that. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Let me know what grade you think it deserves down below, or if I was too harsh, or if I missed anything that you think I should have included. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Be sure to turn on post notifications to be notified when the next video comes out. And I'll see you all there. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.